To identify supply and demand zones, you first need to identify imbalances in the market. Supply is basically where active buyers are more than active sellers, causes the price to drop, and demand is where there are more buyers, more active buyers than active sellers, which will cause the price to react and rise rapidly. So you come from the daily time frame, or from the top, the higher time frame, to the bottom, the down time frame, to find the imbalances in the market. So once you look on the daily, which is right here, I can't find anything on the daily. Then you move on to the 4 hours. When you move on to the 4 hours, right here we can find an imbalance in the market because there's a rapid move up with a continuation move. So this will be considered an imbalance. I consider this an imbalance in the market. Once this has been identified, then you find the base of the move. So the base can be a consolidation prior to the move, maybe this consolidation prior to the move, or an individual candle. I use the individual candles. So I find a basing candle, which will be this one right here. The basing candle is a small bodied candle prior to, that comes before the move up over here. So once the basing candle is identified, and one thing I also like is I like to find the basing candle which is opposite what I'm looking for. So if I'm looking for demand, the basing candle will be a red candle. If I'm looking for supply, the basing candle will be a green candle. Then once that is identified, you pick up your rectangular tool and you draw from the body to the wick, or from the body to the bottom. If there's no wick, it's usually from the body to the bottom of the move. Then you extend it and put 2017 over there so it can stretch, and you label it 4 hours demand. Then you can change the color to whatever you want, but I prefer the color to be green, and change the transparency to 50 so I can see it behind the green line. So when the market comes back into it, I can be able to see it and take a trade off it. So basically this is how you draw a demand zone. This is how I draw my demand zone, and it's the same for supply. So let's find another demand zone. Let's go down again to a smaller time frame and search and search. Okay, we can't find anything over here. We keep going down to the 90 minutes and we look. This will be considered a demand zone, but as I said previously, I prefer my basing candle to be red, sorry. So I won't trade off that. I won't even consider it because it's red, but that is just my opinion. That is just how I do mine. We go down to the 1 hour, and right there over here, strong rally up followed by another candle moving to the upside and a basing candle right here. You take your tool, take the rectangular tool, then you draw from here to there. You label it 1 hour demand. 1 hour demand. I usually change it to 2017 so it can stretch all the way until the market comes into it and break it, or until it's used for like 3 times, then I take it off. Okay, so basically this is another 1 hour zone, and you wait for the market to come back into the zone, and you take a trade off the zone. Then now let's look for a supply zone. Once we are done, we look for a supply zone. So the concept is basically the same. You're looking for a quick drop in the market, find a base. It can be a consolidation, it can be a single candle like how I do mine. Once you find the base, you mark it down, set an alert, and wait for the market to come back into it. Let me move to the Q to find, see if I'll get the supply zone of the Q. Thank you. Over here, right here, if you can see it, let me know in the comments. Right here, a strong drop with a continuation and a base. So you take your rectangle, you draw it from the body to the wick, to the bottom or the wick of the candle, stretch it out to 2017. What time frame? This is the 4 hour time frame. You label it a 4 hour supply, and I like to make it red to represent supply. I make it red, change the transparency to 50, and then click OK. Simple as that. Once you wait for the market to come back into it, you can see, then you take a trade of this one down. As you can see, the market dropped, and you can make some money off this. With proper risks, you can make money off that. Now that you know how I draw my supply and demand, if you want to know how I trade up these zones, check out my channel and subscribe so that you don't miss the next video.